What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the next episode of Sports Talk with Hawk. Today, we take a look at the Miami Dolphins. Not gonna lie, this really puzzled me. The numbers, the results, they really don't make sense. So come along and let's see what can happen. Here we go. What's up, everybody? Welcome back. Today we look at the Miami Dolphins, a team that honestly should have done better than what they did last year. I was looking at all the stats, looking at everything else. I know Tua was injured a little bit, but none of this really makes sense. And why does it not make sense? Well, let's get right into it. So I started looking at just the stats by themselves, and we've kind of seen a consistent trend in some of the playoff teams. Now, to be fair, they probably make the playoffs if Tua plays the whole year. I will give them that credit. They probably do make the playoffs. They probably beat the Colts. That game was absolutely horrible on the Colts side of the ball. Tyreek Hill didn't get the ball. The secondary wasn't really attacked with Huntley. So I can easily say the Dolphins probably make the playoffs if Tua is not injured. But I don't think we will have a season where he isn't injured, which is why he's not worth the money they paid him. But check out these numbers. It's kind of backwards from what I originally thought. So when you look at the offensive totals, now Mike McDaniel, offensive coach, okay? When you look at the totals, they were 18th in total offense, 18th at 326 yards a game. They were 15th in passing at 220 yards a game, and they were 21st in rushing with 106 yards a game. Their points per game scoring was 20. Their points per game allowed was 21. Now check out the defensive statistics. They were 4th. You heard me right. 4th in total defense. 314 yards a game. They were 9th against the pass at 211. 9th against the run at 103 yards per game. Their defense actually saved them. If it wasn't for their defense, even with Tua, I'm not sure they make the playoffs if he's healthy. Without this defense. The turnover differential, we've talked a lot about this. It is a telling sign. They were -5. They got 10 interceptions. They got 6 fumble recoveries. But they gave away 10 interceptions and gave away 11 fumbles. Now, the star on this team is not Tyreek Hill. It's not even Jalen Waddle. It's not Devon. It was actually Jonnu Smith, the tight end that they signed that was at Atlanta the previous year. They let him go as the backup, and honestly, he fit what the Dolphins do, and Jonnu Smith had a career year, and good for him. Good for him. But you can't run the whole entire team through a tight end. So you've got to get the receivers back involved, and it's going to be on Tua to do so. But here's the problem. His salary starts kicking in, going up. Look at the thumbnail. -$12 million in cap space. So they're going to have to make moves that open up cap space for them to keep their players. Now remember, you can end up going over the cap with the rookies and everything else, etc., etc., but they're in a bad spot. What's worse is they have 32 free agents. I'm not kidding you. A bunch of players signed 1-year deals. They have 32 free agents. Let's take a look at them. I was looking at them here a little bit ago and just went, oh boy. My goodness gracious. So here we go. Miami Dolphins. Where in the world do we start? I mean, it's everywhere. It's everywhere. The offensive line. They have Kendall Lamb. They've got Eichenberg. They got Robert Jones. Isaiah Wynn is a free agent as well. Defensive line, Ogba is a free agent. Calais Campbell's a free agent. Burrito Jones is a free agent. Matt Dickerson's a free agent. They've got, Javon Holland, the safety. Riley, the linebacker. Dodson, the linebacker. Jordan Poyer, the safety. Sir Neal, the safety. Elijah Campbell, the safety. Anthony Walker and Cameron Brown, both linebackers. I mean, what are you going to do? Seriously, what are you going to do? When you look at everything as a whole, I don't see how they improve. And the problem is, and if you've watched the snapshots between the Patriots and the Jets, I think Miami goes to the fourth best team, and it becomes a early to late 2000s type Dolphin team. I think they really fall off the cliff because in their own division, you're going to lose at least one game to both the Jets and the Bills, and you're going to lose, both the Jets and the Patriots, and you're going to lose both of them to Buffalo. And because you're going to lose both of them to Buffalo, there's 4 losses already. They have technically the second hardest schedule in their own division after finishing second. They're going to get beat by every team unless somehow this defense can play like this. They have no prayer, but they're losing everybody. They're losing all the playmakers. So they're going to have to sign a bunch of one-year contracts again. They're going to have to figure out exactly how to make all of the cap space fit. Tyreek Hill changed his mind, instead said he wanted to stay in Miami. I think they have to trade him. Not for anything that necessarily he said, not for anything else that may be going on behind the scenes, just because they need cap room. You're not going to be able to protect Tua. Half of your line is a free agent. Like this, Tua Tagovailoa is 1,000% one of those players that needs to have an offensive line or he is worthless as a quarterback. He does not move well. His mobility is actually very bad. He doesn't even slide in the pocket well. He's a lefty, which means the right-handed throws really throw him off. And let's just be honest, because of the fact that society is right-hand dominant, most routes will run. You can do this. I know it's a game. But you play Madden, the routes are run for right-handed. You can kind of tell. And I know it's like, well, just swap them. It's really not that simple because then you're going off foot. What was so special about Reggie Wayne with Peyton Manning was the fact that Wayne had always developed, and because he only played one side, because he played that side and Harrison was on the other, and then when Harrison left, it was Wayne and Garcon went to where Harrison was, because that's how it was always set up. Wayne ended up running that left side the way that he would on the right. It was absolutely second nature. It takes work to do so. It takes plenty of work to do so. That's the type of work that's going to have to be put in. I would keep Jalen Waddle. Jonnu Smith, absolutely. Hopefully Devon can stay healthy. There is a bunch of injury concerns with the running backs between Mostert. Jeff Wilson's actually a free agent now. Jalen Wright, the rookie that they drafted, also got injured. So there is injuries aplenty in the running back room. There's injuries all over the place on this team. Seemingly the injury bug is all over the offense. Can you do a complete reset? You now have Mike Vrabel in the division. You've got Sean McDermott and Mike Vrabel. Those are two coaches you know you're not out coaching. And if you watch the snapshot, I love what the Jets are going to try to do. Whether it works or not, I have no clue. I think the Jets put themselves in a bad spot. We've got to trust that the GM actually knows what he's doing, because Joe Douglas did know what he was doing. That team is stacked talent-wise. So if the coaches are halfway decent, they should be able to get the effort out of those players. The question is the quarterback. The Dolphins have a quarterback that can complete passes, that can throw. He is a franchise quarterback, franchise starting quarterback. He is not a franchise altering quarterback like Jaden Daniels, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson. Even though I still have to kind of throw this out there, the Baltimore Ravens have won. They won with Kyle Bowler. The Ravens organization wins with players. The Steelers won with Tommy Maddox, Charlie Batch, then Ben Roethlisberger. There are some organizations that are so buttoned up that you can have somebody come in for a spell, even if that spell is a season, and they're just fine. The Dolphins are not that organization. They're not buttoned up. Ross, the owner, I really don't know. He's been patient with McDaniel. I'll give him that. But I think this team's going to need to reset. So that's what I'm going to say. That is exactly what I'm going to say for the trade. You need to trade Tyreek Hill. You could easily get a second round pick for Tyreek Hill still, I believe. The injuries are going to scare some teams away, but there are plenty of teams that could really use him. So I think you could still get a second. You may be able to get a sixth as well, especially if you push it out to next year in 2026. I think you could get a second and a fifth in 2026. I know it's not necessarily way out of that ballpark, but I don't think the dead money for Tua is going to necessarily work. I wanted to do, not going to lie, I wanted to do the out-of-box idea of trading Tua, because you have the Raiders, potentially the Saints. You've got some teams that may be able to use Tua in environments that'll be safe for him, because obviously he's not an outdoor in the weather or cold weather quarterback. Below 40 degrees, he drops off a cliff, and it's not a gradual one, it goes straight down. So because of that, I don't think Tua's the right move here. Miami's a good spot for him. When you're home, you know you're getting the best version of Tua that there is. I would keep Tua because the quarterback position is so hard. I would keep Tua. He's a franchise starting quarterback. You got to build pieces around him, which means you need cap space, and negative $12 million is not going to do it. It just won't. They did hire Bobby Slowick as a pass game coordinator. Mike McDaniel, there's a lot of different things that I don't jive with him. Something's off. Accountability in the building seems to be off. The team doesn't play hard for him consistently. There's a lot of different aspects of this team that bother me. But I would trade Tyreek Hill. You've got the number 13 pick in the draft. You need a defense that can do this again. You need a defense that can do this again. The receivers in this draft aren't great, but defense is really strong in this draft. So I would absolutely trade back, get a first, get a second for your pick to be able to build this team up, because this team needs to be built up. You got 32 free agents. I'm sorry, that number, 32 free agents. That's outrageous. That's over half the team is a free agent. Like, what in the world? So they've only got 7 picks in the draft as of right now. I don't know what type of compensatory picks they will get. Not sure. That stuff doesn't come out until, I believe, March. Late March, I believe, is when the compensatory picks get released. The draft is in Green Bay. I am excited about that. The first mock draft that I respect, because there's a lot of mock drafts that try to do a bunch of weird things. So I just stick to guys that keep it simple. Joel Klatt is a guy that I absolutely love. I watch every single one of his videos because he does it the same way that I like doing it as a fan without being the fandom. Because he just loves football. He played football, obviously has one of the greatest calls, is the voice of Fox College Football on Big Noon Saturday. And he teaches football, which is what I love. And this is why I do the snapshots. It's just giving the information. But in his mock draft, he went straight down the board. And honestly, he tells the Dolphins to get an offensive lineman. And that's exactly what they should do. But if the offensive lineman you think fits your line best isn't there, trade back and get defense. You can get 2 really, really, really good players if you just move back a little bit. This draft is going to be really interesting. Remember how last year we were like, well, everybody's going to trade because everybody wants these quarterbacks and offers are going to be there. We thought last year was going to be a really big trading draft. We were wrong. But why were we wrong? Because teams were confident in the picks they were going to take. There wasn't much question last year. Now, the Bears chose the wrong quarterback, which I called, and Washington was sitting there, and Cliff Kingsbury was licking his chops, waiting to get Jaden Daniels in the building. The Atlanta Falcons knew they needed Michael Penix, and look what happened. It's a good thing they didn't wait a year to try to get their quarterback, because they wouldn't be doing it this year. They've got their quarterback. That team is set up. They get the defense figured out. That team's going to be just fine. The Broncos make the playoffs. Rookie quarterback. The Patriots have their quarterback of the future. Vrabel loves Drake May. McDaniels is going to be able to get the best out of Drake May. He got the best out of Mac Jones, for gosh sakes. So let's just realize that right now there are teams that are set up staff-wise. And we're going to do a podcast on this as we get towards the league year opening, what the staffs look like. We're going to go through each team, individually, who's on the staff, etc. And it won't be like one team per. It won't be anything like that. But we're going to go through the staffs, and we're going to go through the free agents, as we're looking pretty good right now, as the snapshots are moving right along. And we'll get done because league year starts, I believe it's 4 weeks from Tuesday or Wednesday. But we're less than a month away on this beautiful Friday. We are less than a month away from the league year opening, and it's going to be exciting. So we're going to go through all that for the staffs. But if you're the Dolphins right now, you need to get what you need. You need offensive line. You need defense. Your defense was really good last year. Those guys that are free agents were part of the unit that was 4th in the league. So I think they're going to have to make some moves. They got to trade Tyreek Hill. I think they need to open up the cap space and trade Tyreek Hill. I really think they don't have much option. Is 2 really good catch and run receivers worth losing 11 games? Because right now, that's my prediction. I'd predict it's 6-11. Just the way it is right now. Tua's good enough. Bet you he's injured. Tyreek's good enough. Bet you he'll get injured. Jalen's good enough. Bet you he'll get injured. Devon's good enough. Bet you he'll get injured. You're betting on injuries at this point. You're going to need to draft a couple receivers, but run with Jalen Waddle. Run with Jonnu Smith. Simplify the offense and get better. You need cap space because you need it because you paid Tua too much dang money. All right, and that is it for a Friday. Another week down. Next week we are going to open with, who are we opening up with? Next week we open up on Monday with the Cincinnati Bengals and continue on the Snapshot streak. It is Friday. It is payday. Well, for me and hopefully most of you. Enjoy the evening. Have a fantastic weekend. And I will talk to you guys on Monday with the Cincinnati Bengals Snapshot for 2025. Thank you so much for listening. As always, please subscribe. Please like the podcast. And have an absolutely fantastic weekend. Until next week, for Sports Talk with Hawk, I am Hawk. And I'm out. Have a great weekend, everyone.